Hey, well, I figure that everybody knows the mermaid books that I write, and they're familiar with some of the other ones that I've done that are children's books. But I don't know if you guys know my first two books, and I thought now might be a good time to read some of these stories as bedtime stories. So my first book was Tell Me a Story. The second book, Tell Me Another Story. So I picked a couple of stories that I loved, that my kids loved, and I thought I'd read them to you guys as a bedtime story. So let's see. The first one is the Grackle. These are not picture books. These are spiritual healing stories that I wrote. So, the Grackle. The rabbit was an angry fellow. It seemed that nearly everything made him hopping mad. In the morning when he woke, Rabbit was angry about having to get out of bed. "I hate our house," he said grumpily. "Everything is old. I hate my toys because they're old and boring." He looked at his stuffed animals, cars, books, and games, and he got even angrier. He threw them all on the floor and kicked them around. "Other rabbits have nicer things than I do," he said. Then he was angry about having to eat carrots for breakfast, so he would not eat. "Carrots are boring," he said, and he twitched his whiskers. He wrinkled his nose. "Other rabbits have much better food to eat than I do." At lunchtime, he was angry because having skipped breakfast, he was very, very hungry. When his mother offered to take him outside, he cried and shouted, "I hate being outside." When she told him he could stay in the house, he cried and said, "I hate being inside." So Rabbit spent most of his time sitting on the front porch. One day, as Rabbit sat alone on his porch, he began to sniff the air. It smelled different. It smelled smoky. Before he knew what was happening, his mother came hopping out of the house. "Run! Run! The house is on fire!" she shouted. "Run! Run and get help!" For once, Rabbit did not argue. Rabbit ran. Every house he came to was empty because it was market day. The only house where someone was at home was the home of the Grackle. Nobody ever saw much of the Grackle because he didn't like to have visitors, and he seldom went to market. He was dirty, green, hairy, and he smelled awful. But little Rabbit raced up the path, and he saw the Grackle sitting on his front porch. "Help! Help! Our house is on fire! And you're the only one who can help us," he cried. The Grackle looked angry. "I hate house fires," snapped the Grackle. "I hate people who need help putting them out. Go away." Rabbit could not believe his long ears were hearing. This must surely be the meanest, most selfish animal that ever lived. "But we need help," cried the Rabbit again. If you don't help us, we're going to lose everything. We'll lose our house. We'll lose everything in it." The Grackle laughed. "Ha! Look, I've been watching you, listening to you. All right? I see that you're just like me. All right? You don't like anything except complaining and being alone." With that, the Grackle pulled a mirror out of his pocket, and he held it up in front of the bunny. And when the Rabbit looked in the mirror, he didn't see a bunny looking back at him. He saw instead a dirty, hairy, green, stinky creature in his bunny clothes. Rabbit was too surprised to speak. "What's so great about that old house of yours anyway?" the Grackle asked. "All your toys are old. All your books are boring. All you ever cook in that kitchen of yours is carrot soup. I should be happy to just get rid of it all. Good riddance." "What? That's not true," the young Rabbit said. "I have stuffed animals to cuddle at night and projects to build and books about strange and wonderful places and suddenly the Rabbit knew that he'd been wrong to be so angry all the time. The Grackle held up the mirror again, and this time the Rabbit didn't see a Grackle. Instead, he saw a happy little bunny sitting at a table eating carrot soup with his mother. "Time to decide," said the Grackle. What do you want to be, a bunny or me? Rabbit knew, and he said, goodbye. He hopped home as fast as he could. When he got there, he found that some of the neighbors coming home from the market had seen the smoke, and they put out the fire. The house was saved, but everything inside was all smoky and covered with soot, and many of the things were wet from the water they used to put out the fire, and his mother looked very sad. I'm sorry, she said. Everything is a big mess, and dinner is burned. To his mother's surprise, Rabbit smiled, and he ran over and he hugged her and he said, I saw the Grackle, and he said our house was old and awful, and he was wrong, he cried. And he said that I was being just like him, and he was right. I never want to be a Grackle again. His mother hugged him and smiled. She said, you know what, I have just the thing for you, she said. From the closet, she pulled a long, flat box, and she opened it up, took out a large mirror, and she hung it on the wall. She says, you know what, when I was a little girl, I saw the Grackle, and he gave me this. And whenever I was feeling angry, I'd run over and look into this mirror. And if I saw a face that was looking grackly, I would make funny faces back until I started to laugh, because Grackles never laugh. And then I never looked like the Grackle again. And from that day on, whenever the little rabbit felt angry, he would run to the mirror and he would laugh his Grackles away. That's the story that I wrote for my boys when they were really little and we lived on our sailboat. This one I wrote, I thought I was writing it for my mom. Turns out I was pretty much writing it for me. And it's called The Stone Carrier. I don't know. This is like they say on TikTok. I don't know who needs this story right now, but maybe I do, so I'm reading it to you. On an island in the sea, there was a small village, and in this village, each person had a task to perform in accordance to their gifts. Jacob was a sweep because he was good at cleaning up other people's messes. Truman was a boat builder, for he was good at calming the waters around him. Alva's job was to be a tender of animals, for he was good at keeping everyone together and would always look out for those who strayed. Then there was Maya. She was a stone carrier. This is her story. When Maya was a girl, she was the most sensitive child in the village. All who met her were sure she would grow up to be a listener, for her perception was very keen. The role of listener was very highly regarded in the village, for everyone needed the services that one had to offer. Maya had a gift for listening to what people said to each other and then helping them to understand each other. This was necessary because people did not always say what they really meant, and so they needed constant interpretation. My, what a lovely dress you have on, my dear, said a woman to another whom she disliked really meant something entirely different. It meant, I wish I looked that good, or I hope you fall in a puddle of mud. Also, a man could say to his mate, I am listening, when what he meant to say is, I'm not interested enough in what you're saying to pay attention, but do not wish to hurt your feelings. Sometimes people would even say, I hate you, when they really meant I love you. It was very complicated calling that Maya had inherited, and she knew it. She worked hard to do her best, and as part of her training, she was told that she would have to step away from her own emotions. You must not get yourself all churned up inside. You're too sensitive for your own good. In order to help others, her professor had said, you must not take offense too easily. Also, you must not begin reading too much into what other people tell you. Well, try as she might, Maya could not stop feeling things. When people fought, she felt angry. When they cried, she wept with them. When someone said things to be hurtful, she felt the pain of those around her, and she could not only listen, she heard. Maya, her professor said, I have a cure for your emotional attachment. He handed her a large, sturdy canvas sack with a shoulder strap. Every time you're about to feel hurt, by something someone says to you. I want you to take a rock from the ground and put it into this sack, he advised. At the end of the day, I want you to take this sack and empty it into the sea. Well, this seemed a splendid solution to Maya, and so she took the sack. For the first few days, the plan worked very well. She would talk to people and then go out and scour the village for rocks. She collected a rock for every slight and sharp word. Then she tossed them into a heap by the seaside. After a week of collecting the rocks, she was growing tired. She decided to wait a few days before making the long walk to the shore to drop the rocks. The bag became heavier by the day, and she kept telling herself that it was time to unload them, but somehow she seemed unable to let them go. Maya had taken to spending her evenings cataloging the stones. Got this dark blue one after the man said that my listening needed work, she said to herself. Oh, this orange one. Yeah, I found that one after that horrible woman said that my hair was too long. Instead of ridding herself of the baggage, Maya had learned to cherish it. The weeks turned into months, and soon Maya stopped listening to others and only worked for herself. She spent hours listening to others' words and seeking meaning that were deeper and sometimes darker. Her back began to bend as she became gaunt and angry looking. Her professor, missing her at class, sought her out. He was deeply saddened by what he found. Child, he moaned, what have you done to yourself? Did I not tell you to throw the stones into the sea? Maya bristled. Did he think she was a fool? Did he think that she would always listen to him and do whatever he advised? Well, she was a wise woman. She'd found her true calling as a stone carrier. She knew her business better than anybody else, and she would not be told what to do. Go away, she snapped. I am a fine stone carrier, and I do not need your advice. He shook his head. He never, ever thought that Maya could come to this. In a fit of guilt, he tried to wrestle the bag from her, but to no avail. Then he tried reason. Look at them, my dear. They are just not worth keeping. You must go to the sea. Pitch them in before they weigh you down so far that you cannot function. Maya considered his words. She had not forgotten how to listen. Only she put her gift aside for a little while. She knew he was speaking the truth. All right, I'll go. I'll do as you say. Satisfied, her old professor went away. Maya collected up all the stones and put them in her sack. She strapped them to her back and she went to the sea. It was getting on to evening and the sun was getting over the water. Long rays stretched towards her, and she walked ankle deep in the briny shore break. The tide was coming in. She had little time to do her task. Still, she thought, it won't hurt to give them all just one last look. She sat on a large flat rock and took her treasures out of her pack and laid them all lovingly before her. With each one she held, Maya remembered the pain, the anger, the hurt. She knew that she was too attached to let them all go. She put them all back in her pack. She turned to step off the rock to return home. But it was too late. The tide had come in, and as Maya took the step, she slipped and plunged into the deepening water. Though the sack on her back pinned her to the bottom, she would not shrug it off. Within moments, Maya ceased her struggle and drowned. To this day, the people of her village remember the lessons that they learned from this one-time listener. The rock on which she had her last thoughts was taken from the shore and brought to the center of the village. There it was carved by the professor, a shaper of beings, into a statue of Maya. The inscription on the base reads, "Here stands the listener, sad and alone, the result of a woman who turned her heart to stone." I needed that one today. My listening skills were starting to wane because you know, lockdown, crazy madness. Not a lot of fun. I'm going to read you The Painter and the Fox as the last one for tonight. We'll do some more stories tomorrow. Should it be The Painter and the Fox? Wait a minute. No, I lie. It's going to be Heaven's Dust. This is my all-time favorite. I wrote this after I lost somebody close to me, my grandmother. And so this is a story that I tend to give to people I know who are suffering loss. I hope none of us do, but this one is a good one, I think. So, Heaven's Dust. Leaf looked out across the broad dawn pink sky and down over the beautiful spring garden. The dewy breeze grazed it and left it shimmering, fluttering. As it moved, Leaf saw all the corners of the garden with its flowers, bushes, trees, and animals. Leaf stretched out to catch every sight and sound. It was a new leaf at the top of a very old tree. Leaf adored all the elements, wind, sun, and rain, but it was most certainly in love with the wind. Wind gave it the freedom of motion. Without the breeze, it would never have seen the world below from side to side. Wind rocked Leaf to sleep and shook it awake. Wind made Leaf to dance. Wind whistled haunting tunes through the branches. It whispered, and sometimes it sang. On many days, Wind told Leaf of the places it had been. All across the river and down to the sea have I been, whispered the wind. On that day, Leaf could even smell the scent of the water and salty places of which the wind spoke. High up to the mountain and to the very door of heaven today, Wind told the fresh, clean smells settling down upon the leaf. I have seen where the blue sky ends and birds cease to wing. I have heard the voice of life itself, and it is so beautiful. Leaf shuddered with the thought of having life speak to it as it did to wind. When will life speak to me? Leaf asked the wind. The breeze warmed as it blew over the leaf, and the wind said softly, You can hear life's voice in me. Whenever wind blew past, be it as a breeze or a gale, the little green leaf waved a joyful greeting, like the hand of a happy child to a loved one. I will love you for all time, said the leaf to the moving air around it. I could not be happier. Hearing this promise, Tree shook itself and emitted a deep chuckle. I am glad you're happy now, Tree said. Enjoy your youth and beauty while you can, for soon enough you'll be withered and brown, dry as dust and blown away by the same breeze that stirs your heart today. Leaf stiffened at these words. The other leaves said nothing. One or two fell like tears before their time as they were so stricken with sadness. Oh, that's not so, the leaf cried. Tree shook again and said, Oh, but it is true. I've seen many, many leaves from many, many trees fall and crumble. Your time will come to curse the wind and the way of things. The wind is old and you are young, said the tree. Ask the wind sometime. The tree said no more. Leaf tried not to think about what the tree had said. Of course it had heard the stories about how leaves grow old and die, but still it would never be hateful. That very day, Leaf made a decision. It shouted to the world, I will never hate the wind. I will not give in to fear or unhappiness. Still, the next time the wind came to call, Leaf could not help but ask, When I become old and dry and brittle, will you destroy me, as the tree says? Leaf asked. Wind was silent for a long moment. I will not destroy you, my dear one, the wind said. All earthly things grow old and dry. not my doing. Leaf was shaking, and the wind could see the fear beginning to overtake the leaf. The wind added, keep your promise not to give in to hate and sorrow. And when the time comes for you to fall, I will be there to catch you. I will be a beginning and not an ending for you. Again, Leaf felt strong. Tell me of your travels today, Leaf said, and the wind told and told. Time passed. Leaf grew and changed. At first it became very big and strong, and then as the air grew chill, Leaf began to take on the most magnificent colors. First a yellow cast, then little patches of red and gold began to creep across it. You are most beautiful today, whispered the wind. I think that of all the leaves in the world, there is not one to match you. Leaf shook a bit, knowing full well that many of the others had also begun to change and take on different hues, but still, the words brought joy. It is the beginning of the end for you and all your kind, the tree laughed. Soon now, ha ha, oh, so soon, you will be nothing but a speck of dirt. All the other leaves began to droop. Some of them even tumbled from their homes early as the weight of that unhappy thought just dragged them down to the earth. But not Leaf. Words, 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 the leaf laughed. You cannot harm me with words. I choose to be happy with my fate. Others choose to be sad. The only one who will be sad when I am gone is you, old tree. For then, to whom will you talk? The tree shook with frustration and anger. You will see, the tree bellowed. You will be dirt. As days passed, Leaf began to feel thin, tired. The bright colors that covered Leaf darkened to brown. Then Leaf knew its time drew short. Still, it would not be sad, because each day now, wind told the leaf of the wonderful adventures that were yet to come. Just seeing Leaf cling to happiness while all those around it fell made Tree angry. One day it could stand it no more, and when wind came to call, the tree shook for all that it was worth, and the leaf snapped away from its branch, and it began to fall. Tree watched, waiting for the leaf to scream and cry, to realize what horror had just befallen it. Instead, Tree heard the sound of laughter. One moment, Leaf was held fast to the tree, and the next it was falling, flipping end over end. I'm flying, laughed the leaf in pure joy. You are plunging, falling, shouted the tree. I'm soaring like a little bird, the leaf sang out. See how I go. Leaf felt something lifted up. It was wind come to keep its promise. I cannot take you far right now, just to rest on the ground. No matter what happens, do not be afraid, because I will return to you. Wind carried Leaf ever so gently to the ground and allowed it to rest there. Leaf could feel the rumble of the roots from the tree as it laughed and said, You see? Now you are nothing. You're ready to become like all the others. It is just as I had said. Just give up now. Leaf was not stirred to sadness by Tree's words. It did not answer, but lay quietly looking up at the world. It looked so different now. After a time, Leaf nodded off to sleep, and a long time passed before it woke. Instead of feeling old, stiff, and papery, Leaf felt suddenly free to move about. It could hear wind singing softly through the trees and felt itself being lifted and spun higher and higher. Did I not promise all would be well? Crooned the wind. You have become the dust of the earth, so light, so fine, that now I can carry you with me anywhere. And so wind did carry the dust of the leaf and scattered it over fields, onto the backs of birds that flew to mountains, and into streams that led to oceans. Finally, wind seeded the clouds with the very last few grains that were once the leaf, and leaf came back to the earth with the rains and the snows. Wherever it fell, the remains of the leaf brought a grain of pure joy. a drop of hope, and a touch of love for wind and life. One day in springtime, wind rustled past tree and heard tree telling all the young leaves about the leaf that had loved the wind and perished in the dirt. Wind came back through tree singing a breezy tune. Listen, my children, but not to those who tell you that your fate is in the dirt. Listen to me instead. I will tell you the tale of how you will become heaven's dust, not dead, but free. Believe, and you will never dread. So if you ever wonder which leaves listen to the wind and not the tree, look up on a stormy day and see which ones wave a joyous greeting and which ones fall down in sorrow. I hope that we all wave in joy and we don't fall down in sorrow. I love you guys. When I can, I'll read you more. Good night. Sleep tight.